All right, so I finally found and picked up the Ruger RXM. I saw one in stock at a local shop. They've actually been out of stock for a little bit, so finally found one. And I have to say, my initial impressions of everything was kind of like, meh. You know, I did a little bit of dry fire, a little bit of practice around the house, some magazine exchanges, and I just didn't know what to think about the thing, both from the way the trigger felt and the grip. So I really had to keep an open mind when I got this thing out to the range the first time. However, I really do like the direction they went with this thing, partnering with Magpul for the grip module, Ruger obviously building all the metal parts and internals, because that just opens up a lot of doorways for things that could be coming in the future from a company like Magpul to support the RXM that Ruger's making. My two biggest negative thoughts right off the bat with this thing were one, the trigger, and two, kind of how the grip profile felt. So it actually felt smaller than a factory Gen 319, which it is a clone of. So I don't know why, because my hand really looks the same size on both of the grips, but it had to do with how that grip module was formed around the magwell and everything right there. It made it feel a little bit smaller around my hand. And then the trigger on it also just seemed to be a little bit long as compared to a factory Gen 3 Glock. But once I got that thing out on the range, that kind of changed. In fact, when I loaded this thing up, the first magazine that I put down range at the steel target, I immediately said this to the camera.
Dude, that was solid.
That was solid. That was fucking solid. Needless to say, it was a pretty immediate, well, I guess my initial impression was kind of wrong in dry fire because it actually felt quite good and fired quite nice. So I immediately just moved into testing magazines. And that's going to include a bunch of different brands. Obviously, I tested the Magpul Glock mags that come with it. I tested factory mags with extension, factory Glock 17 size mag with extension, KCI magazines, X-Tech magazines, because I really just wanted to see if they were gonna function reliably in this thing, because not every Glock clone likes every magazine that's out there, but they really should. And I have to admit, this is where the grip module from Magpul really began to shine, was during those magazine exchanges, because I was wearing a basic holster, this right here. I wasn't using a sidecar style holster where the magazine is in it, because I was using my Neomag. So if you don't know what a Neomag is, it's basically a pocket clip, almost like a knife, but it's magnetic. Locks onto your magazine like that, so you can carry it in the pocket, so you can carry a little bit more of a slim holster like this. And yes, we're gonna get into holster fit in just a second. So that magwell that is integrated into the frame that you can see right there, it does feel a little different on the hand, but it makes those magazine exchanges extremely quick and very nice to do. Size magazine, or you're using a 19-15 round magazine, right? So very well done on that, because I'm a huge fan of magwells because it's generally only a level up, and I'll take anything that's an advantage when it comes to a pistol. Now, since we're going to be talking about holsters, and I know that question is going to come up, when it comes to the RXM, it fits every single Glock 19 style holster that I personally have. Here is a very basic form fit, vacuum fit holster for a Glock 19. Locks in just like a Glock 19 would, okay? No tension change, nothing. Here's my factory Gen 3, locks in and fits exactly the same way. So if you have a standard Glock 19 holster and it fits very nicely like this, even around that behemoth of an XL optic right there from Vortex, it covers the trigger, it covers the magazine release to the extent that I like, it's going to work with the RXM unless you've got some odd style of holster. I paired this one up with the Vortex Defender XL. It's a little bit of a big optic for a 19 size pistol, right? It's kind of a behemoth, but I've really come to like the Vortex Defender series, and the XL just gives you a little bit of extra window. This is the 8 MOA version, and having a little bit more glass is kind of nice depending on the distance you're running from a target. And I've just had great experiences with these Defenders so far. I've had like 7 of them, I think, and all of them are performing exactly as I would want them to. If you guys are interested in anything you see here today, I'm gonna have a parts list link down below. And if you are a king at your employer in the break room, casting this from your device to the TV so everybody can indulge, I'll put that QR code for you right here. And a big shout to Brownells. They've been a big supporter of the channel. They've been my go-to since I was a young wee lad, and they are just a great company. So if you find yourself in need, they can probably help you out. Out on the range, I ran primarily 124 grain and some 115 grain ammo, most of which was from my guys over at Badlands Munitions, because I've had a lot of problems with ammo over the past year and a half or so, and their QC is extensively high compared to other major manufacturers. They're a smaller company, so they can do that, and they're just my boys, so I'm gonna support them. And I'll have information for them over at the parts list. But that range day, we had steel staged at 15 and 25 yards, pretty much the entire day. And once I settled into this pistol, I could easily hit the hostage popper on the steel target from 25 yards with ease, so the accuracy definitely seems to be there. And of course, a red dot definitely helps when shooting at distance, right? So this one did kind of surprise me because I had gone into that range day with a little bit of negative bias, but after putting a few hundred rounds through the thing and settling into it, I actually quite liked how the thing felt. It ran 100% reliable on the 115, the 124. I only shot one mag of self-defense ammo because I'm low stocked on that stuff right now. And it was 124 grain Spear Gold Dot Plus P, which is typically my carry ammo, either that or critical duty, because those are the two I've had the best luck with. But that does not mean that everything turned out to be perfect, right? So what exactly is the Ruger RXM, in case you don't know? It's a striker-fired, polymer-based 9mm pistol from Ruger and Magpul. Magpul makes the grips or the grip modules, and Ruger makes all of the actual hard metal parts. But it is a Glock clone built on a chassis system, so the grip is just a piece of plastic, and the actual internal chassis system is the serialized pistol according to lawmakers. It is a Direct 19 clone with some improvements. The module here has a little bit of a flatter profile of the traditional Glock. You don't get that Glock hump at the bottom, which I hate the Glock hump. It has a very nice integral flare at the bottom of the pistol grip, making those reloads easier. Better sandpaper style texture to it. It has a relieved magazine release area, so you're gonna get a little bit more purchase on the magazine release. A single undercut, a single finger groove, recoil ledges out front with that texture for your thumb to get onto, left and right-handed, so my lefties get the love they need, want, and deserve. A single slot accessory rail out front, an extended beaver tail for recoil control, a single-sided slide release, which is slightly extended, and overall the module is extremely nicely smoothed out, glove beveled, and has those modern options that many of us turn to the aftermarket for. Upstairs on the slide, you get front and rear serrations that are easy to use. There is some nice slide work going on in there. It's kind of chamfer cut. It's got a little bit of rounding on the nose area for ease of reholstering. You also get really nice factory metal night sights that are mid-height, so they'll be usable with most kind of smaller optics out there. The front is a white tritium style. The rear is blacked out, which I am a huge fan of. It's got the Ruger 9mm barrel. It has a chamber indicator on the top in case you're into that. You get the Ruger flat face trigger in there, which is actually quite nice on the touch. And it does have a tactile brake and reset, so you know when that trigger is ready to brake again. For removal of the chassis, it's as simple as punching out 2 pins, can still be done with a standard Glock punch, so easy as can be. And you get all the Glock style safeties, which we know, love, and expect, and have been so well proven at this point. And the last thing up top is the optic mounting system, which is direct to slide using a pin interface system, which feels extremely solid. So you can pretty much mount all of the modern optic footprints in there, besides something like the Acro. You would need a conversion plate for something like that. Now let's take an up close look at the trigger. Let's go ahead and quickly go over what we're actually going to get with our RXM pistol. You'll of course get that. You will get 2 of the Magpul Glock magazines, as you can see right there with the orange follower in the 19 size, so they carry 15 rounds. And then the rest of the box, you're gonna get a little RXM kind of, you know, rubberized wristband, I guess you could wear. You get your typical chamber flag, lock. You will get your pin set, okay, which has the optics plate and a little wrench in it because the pins are currently in there under the optic. And then up under there, you've got your manuals, your optic manual for mounting, warranty card, all the basic stuff that you would expect to get with a pistol is set there in this nice little box that is labeled Ruger Magpul because it's a collab, right? Now I want to go ahead and talk about a problem, right, that I noticed with the pistol. So for your factory breakdown and maintenance, you clear it out, pull the trigger, pull back slightly, push forward, and it comes apart just like a standard Glock pistol. Now, initially I did a little Instagram post and the trigger was really gritty, And then when I pulled it apart, I noticed that the spring right here for the slide stop slide release was actually pressed down and it was stuck in between the trigger shoe and that. So I took it apart, fixed that, and the thing smoothed out actually quite nicely after that. I also noticed that you notice right along here on the side of the chassis, the trigger bar makes contact all the way down that side. So I went ahead and put lithium grease in between those two surfaces. And again, it made the trigger quite a bit nicer. And I'm willing to bet you get in there and do a little bit of polish work and you're gonna clean that thing up quite a bit. As far as the rest of the breakdown process here, 2 pins, push that one, chassis pulls out and you can change grip modules and pretty much do anything you want. So it's actually a very cool design and super simple, just like a factory Glock. You can still take it apart with just a simple Glock punch. Now let's quickly address the actual feel in the hand. So you can see I got a lot of meat hanging off, but that magwell and the way it's profiled actually keeps all of my skin out of the way from getting pinched by a magazine on an exchange. So that was what I was feeling when I initially got this, and now I'm actually kind of thankful they did it because it is very nicely flared in there. So when you go to do the exchange, it's just really, really easy, and you're not gonna pinch your skin even though you've got bigger hands like I do. And to compare that to a factory Glock 19, you can see right here that my skin will go over, and if I go to put that magazine in, right there, it's gonna pinch that skin. So very well done, very well thought out on the grip, but it does feel different than the factory 19. Just something to keep in mind if you've got like extra large to double extra large size hands. Now when it comes to the trigger, okay, so you've got like kind of immediate take up and then a wall, and then it's just a lot of roll, right? So a little bit longer, I would say, than a factory Glock. Like, let's compare it to the 19 over here. And you'll see there's our wall, a little bit longer on the take up, but a wall, and then it breaks just a little bit cleaner. And this has a decent amount of rounds through it, but not much. So I'm hoping this will get better. So again, remember the 19 Glock, a little less take up, but a little bit more roll on the break. So I've actually not done pulls on this with the gauge before. So we're gonna do this together for the first time and see what we get here. All right, first one, and these can be tough because this thing's got the roller wheel on it. Ah, see, I did it already. You gotta kind of hook that trigger and then go straight back. I don't think that's right. 2 pounds, 15 ounces. We're gonna do a few more. I think that was a little light. I'll try to pull as good as possible here. Okay, so 3 pounds, 11 ounces, a little bit more believable. I kind of feel like it's 4.5 to 5, but let's see if I can get this thing perfectly linear, not roll up or down like I just did right there. So sometimes these triggers are tough. Okay, that was directly pulled from the center of the trigger, 3 pounds and 10 ounces. Let's just do one more here, right? Because I don't know, it feels like 4.5 to me. But, you know, the gauge could be telling me better than my hand. So right on there, from the center, 4 pounds, 11 ounces. So there is gonna be variation in these pulls because of, you know, where the trigger mechanism is being pulled by the arm here and how fast. But 3.11 to 4.11 on a, you know, a gauge for a Glock pistol, it's actually really not bad. And just one last thing, did anybody else forget to put pants on this morning? My initial impression so far being a few hundred rounds into the Ruger RXM, I'm actually quite pleased with what Ruger and Magpul pulled together here because they've given us all the modern options we want in a pistol, a modular chassis system, all the little extras we go to the aftermarket for when it comes to the grip work, the ledges up front, the texture. We got a really good optic system, really good sights out of the box that are mid-height and still usable. And it just seems to be they put thought into this thing. And the addition of that magwell, even though it does feel a little weird on larger hands like mine, it's still really good for actually doing magazine exchanges. Now, is the trigger my favorite? No, but there's already options out there for that. And if you do some polish work or just fire a few thousand rounds for the thing, it's gonna get a little better. And if you had an issue like I did up front where the spring for the slide stop was stuck on it, That's gonna make it feel a lot better than it did if that was an issue. As far as the value here, if you are interested in a Ruger RXM, I think it's actually extremely high, because if you think about this, a pistol backed by Ruger and Magpul giving us all of the options we could possibly want in a modern striker fired pistol with probably a lot more stuff to come, coming in at about 399 galactic notes, that's an extremely solid price point, especially if these things continue to be very durable and reliable, which I'm really hoping they do, because this is like an everyman's pistol, a really nice pistol with really good options that all of us can probably go out and buy brand new. Now, there are cheaper ones and there are more expensive ones, right? There's the PSA Dagger, but it's not a chassis system. It doesn't give you all the options the frame on this one does, but it's actually been pretty reliable. I've got a couple of them and they've done absolutely awesome. But at the price point here, until you go far higher, like maybe even in a Shadow Systems Foundation series, you're not gonna really benefit for the amount of money spent if this is the price point you are looking to stay at. And until you get over about $600, you're probably not gonna find anything with these kind of options any cheaper, at least that's as nice as this or as reliable. But you guys all know that nobody gets a free pass. So when it comes to the Ruger RXM, is there anything I would personally change on this pistol that I think could make it just a little bit better? Yes, there are two things that I would say that I would personally change. The first of which is going to be the magazine release right there. So I think they should have went with a Gen 4 style, because it gives you a little bit more meat for your thumb to get onto, and the texture should be the opposite direction. So the texture on this magazine release is horizontal. So as you go with your thumb, you can slip a little bit. The texture should be vertical so your thumb bites into it. That's one thing. The other thing would be up front right there, okay? As far as the accessory rail goes on that, I would like to see a standard 1913 size pick rail, maybe 1, 2, hopefully 3 spots, because there's so many different lights out there. And this one is the traditional Glock size, and there's only one of them. Now, are those the biggest deals in the world? Absolutely not. Are they deal breakers? No. These are just my druthers, right? If I had to pick and choose and nitpick this thing apart, those are two things that I think would make this thing just like that 2, 3, or 5% better. And make sure you guys get subbed up to the channel, comment, like it, subscribe, share it if you want. That's all actually a huge help to the channel. And of course, that parts list will be linked down below. The QR code will be right here. And always remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.